Hey guys, tonight we're popping open the medicine cabinet, rifling past the cough syrup, and pulling out something with a little more color. The rainbow pills that killed 1950s American housewives. That's right. Forget what you know about the cheerful pastel ads and perky morning routines. Tonight, we're cozying up with the real, bizarre, and occasionally catastrophic world of mid-century pharmaceuticals, the kind of story that makes you want to lock your bathroom door and ask your doctor if your life is right for you. But before you put on your night cream, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy it. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and, let's be honest, what time it is for you. Because somehow, it's always 3 a.m. when you're Googling, why did people eat radium now? Dim those lights, flip on your fan for that industrial white noise, and get as comfortable as you can. Preferably in pajamas, not laced with asbestos. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what life was really like for a 1950s housewife? Sure, we've all seen the sitcoms, crisp aprons, sparkling kitchens, everyone smiling like they've just inhaled a little too much cleaning product. But what did it feel like to pop a rainbow pill before vacuuming the carpet for the 4th time that day? Were those tranquilizers really mild and non-habit forming? Or were they just the original energy drinks with a sprinkle of existential dread? How did it feel to cook a Jell-O salad while slightly dissociating from reality? Could you juggle 3 kids, 1 opinionated mother-in-law, and a washing machine the size of a Buick, all while running on doctor-approved amphetamines? And would you survive a dinner party if you accidentally took the pink pill instead of the blue one? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1956. The suburbs are new, your neighbors are judging your front lawn, and your medicine cabinet is more colorful than a pack of Skittles. Good luck. The sun is up, the toast is burnt, and you're already running late. Time to chase your orange juice with a little something extra, a crisp white tablet straight from your doctor's office. Welcome to the new morning routine, where energy comes in pill form, and so does being a good mother. It's breakfast in America, 1956 style. Let's set the scene. You've barely peeled yourself off the floral pillowcase, and already there's a symphony of needs erupting down the hall. The kids want pancakes, the dog is chewing on your only decent slipper. Your husband, who somehow manages to wake up looking like he slept in a vacuum-sealed chamber, asks what's for breakfast, as if the answer might surprise him. Spoiler, it's eggs again, maybe, if you can find them, but you've got a secret weapon. Your doctor, who is definitely not being courted by any pharmaceutical reps, and definitely doesn't have a trunk full of samples, gave you a little bottle with your name neatly typed on the label. For fatigue and nerves, he said. As if that covers the entire existential experience of being a mid-century housewife. The label says, Benzedrine. Sounds fancy. The ad in last week's Ladies' Home Journal promised it would restore the natural pep every woman needs to keep her home, her husband, and her eyebrows perfectly in place. You pop the pill, wash it down with your watery orange juice, and feel a pleasant tingle of hope. In about 30 minutes, you'll be able to clean, cook, iron, and referee a small civil war over a missing toy car, all without breaking a sweat. Energy doesn't just return, it shows up, grabs a mop, and starts rearranging the furniture. The chemical sun rises just a little faster. But here's the thing about breakfast with Benzedrine. It's less a meal and more a launch sequence. As the amphetamines kick in, you achieve a level of focus not seen since NASA started launching rockets. Your brain is buzzing like a fluorescent light bulb. Suddenly, making lunches is a competitive sport. You slice the bread into perfect triangles, cut the crusts with mathematical precision, and, in a burst of creative energy, write a passive-aggressive note for the lunchbox, remember to eat the fruit this time. Meanwhile, the house transforms around you. Dust doesn't stand a chance. You vacuum with the energy of a woman possessed, pausing only to polish the silverware that hasn't been used since the Eisenhower inauguration. The refrigerator gets scrubbed, organized, and judged for the presence of anything off-brand. You alphabetize the canned goods. You consider doing the same to the spice rack before realizing you only own salt and paprika, which may actually be brick dust. The children notice the shift. "Mom, are you okay?" they ask. Watching you fold socks with the intensity of a bomb disposal technician. "Never better, sweetheart," you chirp. Rearranging their shoes by color, size, and potential to be tripped over. Outside, the world is waking up more slowly. Your neighbor, Marjorie, waves from across the hedge. She's on her own pill, maybe pink, maybe yellow. The two of you lock eyes, silently acknowledging that this is just what mornings are now. The invisible arms race of Pep is in full swing. Who will blink first? Spoiler, it's always the one who runs out of refills. But beneath the gleaming countertops and the caffeinated cheer, something's off. Your heart's pounding a little faster than usual. Was it the excitement of breakfast? Or did you just forget to eat again? Never mind, you'll have lunch. Or maybe you'll just deep clean the baseboards until it's time for another tablet. Because in 1956, being a good mother means always being in motion. And if your energy comes from a pill bottle, well, that's just modern science. Breakfast is served with a side of speed. Your day isn't complete until you've donned your frilliest apron, looped on a double strand of pearls, and popped whatever your GP handed you last week. Fashion meets pharmaceuticals. And somewhere between the lipstick and the Librium, you wonder when normal started looking like a pharmacy shelf. Let's begin in your bedroom, 7:32 a.m. There's a checklist on your vanity, written in immaculate penmanship, of course, reminding you of your duties. Look presentable. Sound cheerful. Never let the neighbors see you in anything less than a full face of makeup. The radio is chirping a tune about sunshine and keeping your chin up. But you're still fighting the urge to collapse face first into the chenille bedspread. There's only one thing to do. Accessorize and medicate. First, the uniform. Step 1. The apron. Not just any apron, but the one with the tiny cross-stitch roses and that bow you ironed at 10 p.m. last night while the rest of the family snored. It's crisp, it's cheerful, and it's about as functional as a screen door on a submarine. But you tie it tight, because the right apron says, "I am in control, even if my brain is currently auditioning for a spot in the Macy's parade." Next, the pearls. You slip them over your neck, double strand. As the magazines advise, pearls are the armor of suburbia, elegant, cool, and proof to the world, and maybe to yourself, that you have it together. The truth? You haven't actually bought new pearls in years. The clasp is held together with a safety pin and the hope that nobody's eyesight is good enough to notice. Now for the main event, the pills. The medicine cabinet is the unsung hero of the 1950s starter pack. You survey the shelf like a master chef selecting spices, one for pep, one for calm, one for that mysterious nervous tension that started right around your 3rd wedding anniversary and hasn't let up since. There's dextrine for mornings, Librium for afternoons, maybe something pink and pleasant-looking for the evenings when dinner conversation feels like a hostage negotiation. You pick today's selection, chase it with a swig of last night's cold coffee, and wait for the mood shift. By the time you're applying your candy apple lipstick, the colors seem brighter. The curtains look less like a prison and more like a magazine spread. You smile into the mirror, practicing the look that says "I'm happy," just in case the Avon lady drops by unexpectedly. Downstairs, your family is already in motion. Your husband is pretending to read the business section. The kids are recreating the Battle of Gettysburg under the dining table. You glide in, pearls gleaming, apron spotless. and ask, through gritted teeth masked by a perfect smile, if anyone would like some oatmeal. Nobody says thank you. You remind yourself that gratitude is a bonus, not an expectation. The kitchen becomes your stage, and you, the lead actress. Every movement is rehearsed. The coffee poured with a flourish. The eggs flipped with a practiced wrist. The slightly twitchy energy that says, I can do this all day. Between chores, you catch a glimpse of the neighbor out her window. She's wearing pearls too. You wonder if her doctor is as generous with the samples as yours. Somewhere between the laundry and the lunch prep, you pause. When did life become this endless ballet of appearances? Was there a meeting you missed? Did anyone ever actually feel this put together? Or is everyone just playing the same exhausting game? You glance at the pill bottle, then at your reflection. Apron, pearls, lipstick, smile, all in place. The truth is, in 1950s suburbia, being the perfect housewife isn't just a performance, it's a group project. You keep up the routine, take the pills, and hope nobody notices if you fall out of step. Because under the starch and sparkle, everyone's just trying to keep the seams from showing. And if all else fails, you've got an extra pill tucked in your pocket, just in case. You haul a week's worth of clothes to the basement, accompanied by the low, comforting hum of your favorite pick-me-up. Between soap flakes and sedatives, it's hard to tell what's brighter, the laundry or your artificially heightened sense of calm. Let's paint the scene. The house is quiet, except for the soft thud-thud of socks hitting the laundry basket and the cheerful rattle of pills in your pocket. It's Tuesday, which means it's you versus an avalanche of dirty shirts, mismatched socks, and the one sweater your husband insists shrank on its own. You're armed with a box of super suds, a bottle of something with doctor on the label, and a sense of duty that only mild amphetamines can provide. The basement itself is a relic, a chilly, dimly lit shrine to the god of perpetual moisture. The cement floor is cold enough to numb your toes, but you hardly notice, thanks to your chemical cheerfulness. A lone window lets in a single, judgmental shaft of sunlight that perfectly illuminates the dust motes. Like the set designer of your life is going for slightly haunted optimism. You place the laundry basket on top of the ancient washing machine, which grumbles in protest. It's older than your marriage, and twice as temperamental. Sorting laundry in 1956 is a full-body workout. Whites, colors, delicates, towels, everything in its own carefully divided pile. The whites get first dibs on the good soap and the hottest water your pipes can barely provide. The colors get second place, unless you're feeling rebellious. In which case, you'll risk turning the dish towels an accidental pastel pink. Somewhere between piles, you pop your helper, the pill dissolving on your tongue with the faint tang of hope and a whisper of side effects. Here's where the magic happens. As the Benzedrine or Librium works its way into your system, the tedious repetition of laundry starts to feel almost meditative. Each sock you fold is a victory over chaos. You hum a tune from the radio upstairs and get into a rhythm. Soap, scrub, rinse, repeat. With every rotation of the agitator, you imagine yourself churning out not just cleaner clothes, but a cleaner, more orderly existence. If only real life could be sorted as easily as a load of towels. Enter the little helpers, not the pills, but your children. They arrive on the scene with the unrestrained energy of puppies at a parade. One offers to help by tossing a handful of crayons into the whites. The other insists the dog's blanket needs a good washing, preferably with your best silk slip. You try to maintain your zen composure as chaos mounts. It's a test of both patience and prescription. You guide their efforts, assigning them harmless tasks, folding towels, matching socks, knowing full well that you'll redo it all later, but at least they feel useful. And isn't that what family is all about? Everyone pitching in, even if it doubles your workload? Your neighbor, Marge, calls down from the top of the stairs to gossip about the latest scandal at the garden club. She's on her own version of a helper, voice sweet and just a touch too energetic for someone discussing who used Miracle Grow improperly. You exchange stories about stubborn stains, her, grass and chocolate, you, lipstick and existential despair. For a moment, you bond in the sisterhood of endless laundry and mutual pharmaceutical support. You wrangle the final load into the machine, wipe your hands on your apron, and marvel at the small victories. No socks missing, yet. No colors catastrophically blended. And nobody in tears, yourself included. The laundry spins, the world outside keeps turning. You look at the neat folded stacks and almost convince yourself you're keeping it all together. For now, laundry day isn't glamorous, but it's proof you survived another week. Whites, colors, and little helpers, washed, sorted, and occasionally tranquilized. And that, in 1956, is as close to perfection as it gets. Efficiency is the new American dream, and you've just swallowed it whole. Mother's Little Helper is less a nickname and more a necessity. The vacuum roars, your heart races, and you clean with the intensity of a caffeinated squirrel. Suburbia has never sparkled quite so hard. Let's set the tempo. You've just finished your morning pill, and suddenly you're not just awake, you're hyper-aware. You can hear dust settling. The entire house vibrates at the frequency of a marching band. You are the drum major, and your baton is a feather duster. The 1950s prided itself on order, speed, and the subtle art of looking unbothered while living in a cyclone of activity. Congratulations, you are the cyclone now. The kitchen counters are spotless, not because you cleaned them, but because you've worn through the surface. The vacuum cleaner is no longer a tool, it's an extension of your body, and you wield it like a knight brandishing a lance at a jousting tournament. The dog has retreated under the bed. The children know to stay in motion or risk being dusted. And your husband's shoes are already lined up by the door in ascending order of emotional stability. You sprint from room to room, energy buzzing, eyes sharp for a single out-of-place crumb. Curtains are straightened, pillows are fluffed and refilled with more fluff, just in case. The ceiling gets dusted, because why not? At this speed, you could probably catch Sputnik before it orbits the house. The amphetamines do more than keep you going. They turn you into a home maintenance superhero, able to change sheets and reorganize the spice rack in the time it takes your neighbor to find her car keys. Out in the yard, the hedges are trimmed into geometric shapes. The lawn is so flat and uniform that pilots could use it for emergency landings. The mailbox has never shined so bright. You wave at Marjorie across the street, and her wave is ever so slightly delayed. A telltale sign she's still waiting for her prescription to kick in. Of course, the magazines encourage this lifestyle. Tips for a more efficient home, they declare, as if there's a secret club where housewives compete for the cleanest grout. What they don't show, the empty pill bottles hidden behind the starch. You take pride in your efficiency, but somewhere deep down, you wonder if you're cleaning to keep up with the Joneses, or if you're trying to scrub away a sense of emptiness that never quite disappears, even after you wipe down the baseboards for the 4th time this week. The side effects are subtle, but they're there. Your heart skips. Your hands tremble just a little as you alphabetize the pantry. You forget lunch, but you remember to polish the doorknobs. Hunger is replaced by the urge to iron things that have no business being ironed, like the curtains, the newspapers, maybe even your husband's sense of self-worth. You smile wider than usual. You talk a little faster at the door when the milkman arrives, asking if he's ever considered switching to glass bottles for efficiency's sake. He leaves quickly, probably afraid you'll alphabetize his delivery route. As afternoon settles in, your body slows, but your mind keeps racing. You notice every imperfection, the tiny fingerprint on the window, the slightly crooked painting, the existential ache under the surface. Efficiency has become your currency, and the amphetamines are the mint. By dinner, you're wired but exhausted, jittery but triumphant. You did it all, and suburbia glows with sanitized approval. But as you lie in bed, eyes refusing to close, you wonder, did you really make life more efficient, or did you just make it faster? The house is sparkling, the neighbors are impressed, but your mind keeps running laps long after the vacuum's quiet. And tomorrow, you'll do it all again. With a little help, the doctor listens patiently to your complaints, then prescribes something in pastel. Anxiety? Have a blue one. Sadness? Try yellow. Overwhelmed by life itself? Take 2 and call him in the morning. After all, he went to medical school and you just make the casseroles. Let's set the scene. The waiting room smells like antiseptic and magazine perfume samples. The nurse calls your name, and you shuffle in, clutching a list of symptoms you've rehearsed in your head, but will never actually say aloud. You perch on the wax-papered exam table, surrounded by pamphlets about vitamins, digestive health, and the latest miracle in women's well-being hint. It comes in tablet form. The doctor enters, white coat crisp, tie a little too cheerful. He asks about your nerves, your sleep, your womanly troubles, and whether you've been keeping busy. You nod, smile, and resist the urge to tell him the only thing keeping you busy is existential dread and the ongoing Cold War in your living room. He listens, or at least he appears to. There's a notepad in his hand, but you can't shake the feeling that the prescription was written before you even sat down. It's not personal. It's policy. Pills for worry, pills for sadness, pills for that unspeakable heaviness that settles in your chest after the 3rd PTA meeting of the week. The names sound soothing. Milltown, Librium, Serax, like brands of soap or distant European spas. He explains that modern science can make things easier, that your husband will appreciate a calmer home, and that, if necessary, there's always something stronger for the rough days. You try to explain that the rough days aren't rare, they're relentless. But the doctor, with the confidence of a man who's never folded laundry at midnight or stared at a mountain of unpaid bills, assures you that what you're feeling is perfectly normal for women of your station. Translation: if you're tired, it's the housework. If you're anxious, it's your nerves. If you're sad, well, everyone's sad sometimes, but not everyone can get a refill. The script is as familiar as a jingle on daytime radio. Smile, be grateful, swallow whatever the doctor gives you, and trust that he knows what's best. After all, he has the framed diplomas. You have the best recipe blue ribbon from the county fair. He doesn't ask about your dreams. He doesn't ask if you've had a moment to yourself all week, or if you feel more like a ghost than a person some days. Instead, he reassures you that everyone's struggling. But modern medicine is here to help. With a wink and a flourish, he tears off the prescription and hands it over like a consolation prize. You tuck it into your purse, next to a grocery list and a note to buy more foundation, just in case the pills don't do enough to cover the cracks. At the pharmacy, the bottles are lined up in the window like tiny glass trophies. The pharmacist recognizes you now. He slides the pastel pills across the counter with a conspiratorial nod, as if you both know this isn't really a cure, it's just the best option on offer. You take your remedy, a rainbow of promises in child-proof caps, and wonder if anyone else in line feels as invisible as you do. Back home, you dutifully add the new pills to your growing collection in the medicine cabinet. Some bottles are half empty, some untouched. You close the cabinet, catch your own tired eyes in the mirror, and practice a reassuring smile. Doctor knows best, you remind yourself. After all, You just make the casseroles. And as you set the table for dinner, counting out forks and doses in the same rhythm, you can't help but wonder if you really are getting better. Why do you feel more and more like a character in someone else's prescription pad? In the end, the pills might make the symptoms fade, but the questions, the real ones, never seem to go away. Step into your bathroom, slide open the mirrored door, and behold, bottles in every hue, promising relief from every possible inconvenience. Migraines, nerves, weight, even nerves about your weight. There's a pill for that. If only you could remember which is which. It's the most colorful part of your house. And that includes the wallpaper in the powder room. Lined up on the shelf like little soldiers in a parade, the bottles are coded in pastels, pink for sleep, blue for nerves, yellow for general malaise, which is what your doctor calls it when you cry doing the ironing. There's something for every flavor of distress, as long as you're willing to play pharmaceutical roulette before breakfast. Each bottle has a name that's either suspiciously soothing or unpronounceable. Librium, Milltown, Dextrine, Seconal, half sound like vacation resorts, half like sci-fi robots. All of them come with their own instruction sheets, which you keep meaning to read but never do. After all, the font is tiny, and it's not like you can pronounce contraindications before you've had your first cup of coffee. Every morning is a test of memory and risk. You squint at the labels, trying to recall, was the yellow for anxiety or insomnia? Did the pink one stop the headaches, or just make them more interesting? You're certain your grandmother never had this problem. She had whiskey, cod liver oil, and the unshakable belief that fresh air and hard work cured everything. You, on the other hand, have an arsenal of chemical solutions, and a vague sense that one of these days you'll take the wrong one and end up reorganizing the linen closet at 3 a.m. in a state of existential bliss. There's a ritual to it, like a modern sacrament. Open the mirrored door, take stock. Do you need to be calmer, perkier, sleepier, thinner? The cabinet provides. You pick your mood for the day from a palette of possibilities, as if you're painting a new personality before breakfast. Each pill has a promise. You'll be the perfect wife, the calmest mother, the brightest hostess. The side effects are listed somewhere, but you'll deal with those when they arrive, like unwanted house guests. Your husband sometimes peers in, baffled by the variety. He has 2 bottles, one for heartburn, one for headaches, simple, utilitarian, and unflavored. You, meanwhile, have enough options to open a small apothecary. You tell yourself it's progress, that modern science means never having to feel off for more than a few hours at a time, but sometimes you catch your own reflection in the mirrored door, eyes scanning the labels, and wonder if you're managing your problems or just adding new ones, one tablet at a time. Children aren't supposed to know about the medicine cabinet, but somehow they do. You catch your daughter peeking inside, dazzled by the pretty colors. You close the door quickly, telling her those are for grown-up problems. She nods solemnly, as if grown-up problems are an inevitable part of getting taller and learning to bake. You make a mental note to lock the cabinet, even though the only real danger is that one day you'll reach for a tranquilizer and accidentally grab a diet pill. Friends compare medicine cabinets like recipes. You're on Librium? My doctor says Milltown is gentler on the nerves. Oh, but watch out for the blues. They'll dry your mouth out so much you'll need a canteen at Bridge Club. It's a secret society. And the only requirement for membership is an open prescription pad and a willingness to admit, quietly, that sometimes you just can't cope without help. And so, the medicine cabinet stays stocked, a rainbow of reassurance and risk. You close the door, straighten your lipstick, and tell yourself you've got it under control, at least until next week's refill. The neighbors are always watching. Is your lawn tidy? Are your curtains starched? Are you, gasp, acting a little too relaxed. In 1950s suburbia, fitting in means more than just matching window treatments. Sometimes it means matching prescriptions too. Let's set the scene. You wake up, peek through the slats of your immaculate blinds, and there's Mrs. Klein across the street, already watering her hydrangeas in a perfectly pressed housecoat. She's not really looking at the flowers. She's checking to make sure your morning routine hasn't slipped. Heaven forbid the trash cans aren't in a straight line or a single blade of grass rebels against the mower. Suburbia isn't just a neighborhood. It's a surveillance state powered by coffee and mild anxiety. It's a world where conformity isn't just encouraged, it's enforced with polite smiles and sharp glances. You smooth your dress, fix your hair, and make sure the coffee pot is visible from the window. Even your dog senses the pressure, barking only at pre-approved intervals. You're not just living your life. You're starring in an ongoing performance of the American dream, co-starring your nearest and nosiest. But in this world of soft pastels and social pressure, there's a secret handshake. The daily dose. Everyone's in on it, even if no one talks about it above a whisper. The pills are as much a part of the uniform as the apron and the pearls. In fact, the only thing more scrutinized than your front porch is your level of visible calm. Too jittery? People whisper that your husband works you too hard. Too serene? They wonder if you've found a new doctor, or if you're on something stronger than the rest of the block. You find yourself in quiet competition with your neighbors, each of you subtly comparing your ability to appear perfectly unbothered while maintaining the world's most pristine hedges. The conversation over coffee isn't just about recipes or PTA meetings, it's coded language. "You seem so well rested lately, Janet," means, "What's your pharmacist's name?" A slightly too bright smile at the grocery store might be the result of a new prescription. And you notice, with a mixture of envy and dread, that everyone else seems just a bit more composed since last month's book club. Matching prescriptions is part of the arms race. When Librium makes the rounds, suddenly everyone's feeling much better. A new tranquilizer shows up, and the block gets eerily quiet. Children play in the yard with the hushed caution of a church service, and no one yells about the dog next door. You don't ask outright. You just make a mental note to ask your doctor for whatever Marge is taking. He nods, knowingly. It's not his first time running this pharmacy-fueled version of keeping up with the Joneses. There's a subtle, unspoken anxiety about being left behind. What if the next trend in housewife composure passes you by? You try a new pill, and for a while, everything is easier. The laundry piles shrink, your smile widens, and even your meatloaf gets compliments. But then, you catch your neighbor giving you the side eye, as if your tranquility is suspicious in itself. A little too relaxed, she whispers to her gardenia, and suddenly you're second-guessing your dosage. It's exhausting, this perpetual dance between serenity and suspicion. You want to fit in, but not stand out. You want to appear calm, but not comatose. The truth is, nobody's as serene as they look through their kitchen window. Every prescription bottle is a quiet admission that perfection is exhausting and that fitting in might just be the most stressful part of all. So you smile for the neighbors, adjust your blinds, and take your dose, just enough to keep up, never quite enough to truly relax. Because in 1950s suburbia, appearances are everything, and even your peace of mind needs to match the house next door. The clock strikes 2, your energy plummets, and it's time for your afternoon pick-me-down. Barbiturates arrive in cute bottles with terrifying warning labels, but at least the packaging is pretty. Side effects may include existential dread and drowsy gossip over tea. Let's set the scene. The house has entered its quiet phase. Lunch dishes are stacked in the sink like an art installation titled Domestic Regret. The morning's amphetamines have faded, leaving a sense of hollowness that only caffeine, sugar, or a tiny white pill can hope to fill. The sun pours in through the kitchen window, lighting up the motes of dust you were too tired to chase, despite your best chemical intentions. The dog is snoring. The children are, for once, neither screaming nor visible. It's the sacred hour between lunch and the first after-school skirmish. Prime time for a sedative and a moment of manufactured serenity. You open the cupboard and scan the shelves. Alongside the tins of tea and sleeves of biscuits sits your pharmacist's latest contribution to the American dream. A pastel bottle labeled for tension and restlessness. It might as well say, for surviving the 1950s. You shake out a tablet, pause for dramatic effect, and wash it down with the world's most tepid cup of Earl Grey. Almost immediately, a gentle fog rolls in. The edges of the day go soft and fuzzy, like the focus on an old Hollywood close-up. The world slows down. You feel calm. Maybe a little too calm, but calm nonetheless. The whirring thoughts of laundry and meatloaf and why the vacuum cleaner smells like toast fade into the background. It's you, a cup of tea, and a level of detachment that borders on philosophical. This is also the hour when friends call or drop by, usually with a plate of cookies and a fresh batch of rumors. Today it's Marge, who glides in wearing an aggressively cheerful sweater and a faint cloud of Yardley lavender. She eyes your teacup, raises an eyebrow, and discreetly places her own pill bottle on the table. No one talks about it, but everyone knows. It's not just chamomile making the rounds at these little get-togethers. The conversation drifts, from casseroles to children's report cards to which neighbor was seen buying instant mashed potatoes instead of real ones. Scandalous. The barbiturates kick in, and suddenly all gossip feels as weightless as a meringue. But there's a flip side to all this calm. The list of possible side effects is longer than your last grocery receipt. You notice your eyelids getting heavy and the kitchen clock ticking at half speed. Did you just agree to host next week's bridge club? Or did you dream it? Time is slippery now. And so is your grip on small details, like why you walked into the pantry. Still, you nod and smile, practicing your well-adjusted housewife face while fighting the urge to nap on the freshly folded towels. The kids burst through the door at 3:15, and for a split second you marvel at your own composure. The noise is louder, the chaos more intense, but you're a sea of gentle indifference. The dog barks, a glass breaks, and you find yourself floating serenely through it all, half present, half hovering above the scene like a slightly medicated guardian angel. As the day drifts toward dinner, the haze begins to lift. You come back to yourself just in time to wonder what you missed. The barbiturates promised peace, and in a way, they delivered. But peace comes with a price, a slightly blurry memory, a slow-motion hour, and the realization that sometimes, in 1950s suburbia, you really can be too relaxed. You clear the cups, straighten the tea towels, and tuck the pill bottle back in its hiding spot. Knowing tomorrow at 2, you'll do it all again. The kids are finally quiet. Your husband is due home any minute. Time to prepare his favorite. A cold martini and your own special cocktail, shaken, not stirred, straight from the prescription pad. Cheers to chemical serenity. The ritual begins at 5 p.m. sharp, because in 1950s suburbia, the end of the day isn't official until you've performed the twin miracles of silencing the offspring and perfecting the garnish. You're already one step ahead. The olives are skewered, the gin is chilling, and there's a tiny pastel tablet tucked next to your lipstick in your apron pocket. The house hums with a sense of impending performance. The roast is in the oven, the coffee percolator is prepped, and you've practiced your "I'm absolutely not exhausted" smile in the hallway mirror. There's a choreography to this hour. You move from room to room, plumping a cushion here, dimming a lamp there, all while the living room clock ticks out a countdown to your husband's arrival. You check your hair, check the roast, check the front window for the familiar glint of headlights in the driveway. This is your moment to transform from long-suffering house manager to breezy, unflappable hostess. Never mind that you've just wrangled 3 children, a leaky washing machine, and an existential crisis about whether to join the garden club. You pour his martini with a steady hand, counting out exactly 3 olives because that's how he likes it. Never 2, never 4, as if the right number will ensure marital harmony. But while the gin flows for him, you opt for your own version of a nightcap, one Milltown taken with a discreet sip of water and the faint hope that this evening, at least, will glide by in a haze of engineered calm. The advertisements promised tranquility in a tablet, a shortcut to grace under pressure, and, if you believe the testimonials, a more harmonious home life. You hand your husband his drink just as he walks through the door, suit jacket slung over his shoulder, voice booming. "Honey, I'm home," in a tone that suggests he hasn't had a single anxious thought since breakfast. He settles into his armchair, shoes off, paper in hand. You smile, refill his glass, and pretend the kids' shrieks from the playroom are just the wind. That's when your own cocktail starts to work its magic. You feel a gentle floatiness, a smoothing out of the day's ragged edges. The pile of laundry waiting in the basement no longer feels like a personal failing. The PTA fundraiser can wait. The burned patch on the casserole is suddenly hilarious, not horrifying. You sit next to your husband, feet tucked under you, and let the gentle hum of post-martini conversation wash over you. In this new, chemically calibrated calm, the roles of wife and mother become a little easier to play. You're attentive but detached, charming but just removed enough to ignore the mounting chaos in the next room. The children sense the shift and tiptoe around you, aware that cocktail hour is sacred, even if it's only one of you drinking gin and the other drinking pharmaceutical optimism. Your neighbor calls to invite you to bridge night. You accept without hesitation, riding the mellow wave of tranquility. Even the prospect of socializing, usually a source of low-level terror, feels possible. The barbiturates and tranquilizers promise to keep your smile steady and your small talk smooth, regardless of how badly you play. And so, cocktail hour passes. The martini glass empties. Your prescription bottle returns to its hiding place, and the house slowly quiets as dinner is served. Under the glossy glow of 1950s domesticity, you and your husband toast to another day survived. With a little help from gin, science, and the unspoken knowledge that sometimes the only way to stay afloat is to mix your medicine with your martini. Cheers to that. You're expected to be serene, nurturing, and never ever raise your voice. Enter Valium, the pharmaceutical solution to parenting, marital discord, and existential malaise. Who needs therapy when you have tranquilizers and a pantry full of canned peaches? Let's zoom in on your kitchen, mid-afternoon. The youngest is crying because the applesauce is too cold. The eldest is locked in the bathroom practicing for adulthood, and you're standing at the counter, staring at a can of pineapple rings as if it contains the secret to inner peace. The phone rings. Someone from the PTA wants you to bake 48 cupcakes by tomorrow. The dog knocks over a lamp. Your nerves, already frayed like the cuffs on your best housecoat, are moments from snapping. The magazine on the table shows a smiling woman in pearls. How to be your family's calm center. She looks like she's never had to scrub crayon off the wallpaper or explain the birds and the bees to a 7-year-old who just asked if babies are delivered by mailman. You reach for your little helper. The bottle is always within arm's reach, nestled in a cupboard with the baking powder and food coloring. The label is soothing. For relief of tension and minor anxiety, that's doctor code for daily life in suburbia. You pop the pill with the last of the morning's coffee, cold, but functional. Within half an hour, you feel the first ripples of peace. Your shoulders loosen. The kids' shrieks become background music. The phone a distant suggestion. A wave of detachment rolls in. It's not that you don't care. It's just that you can't summon the same urgency about everything at once. Is that spilled grape juice on the rug? Not your problem, at least not for the next few hours. You've been promised serenity, and in some ways, Valium delivers. You float through the rest of the afternoon in a gentle haze. The casserole burns? Oh well. The dog eats a sock? There are more socks. Your husband is running late. Again, time is an abstract concept. You find yourself agreeing to anything, as long as it maintains the peace. Extra chores, awkward dinner parties. Listening patiently to a neighbor's fourth retelling of her gallbladder surgery. But calm comes at a cost. Your mind is slower. Your emotions are softer at the edges. You try to remember if you already started the laundry or just imagined it. The world's expectations are still there, pressing down on you. Dinner on time, children well behaved, marriage picture perfect. But now you're insulated, as if wrapped in several layers of pastel bubble wrap. You wonder, is this what they mean by having it all together? Or is it just a pleasant kind of apathy? Other mothers whisper about their own helpers. At Bridge Club, it's an open secret. I just need a little something to get through the week. Marge confides, swirling her coffee. You all nod, grateful no one has to say exactly what's in the bottom of each purse. The myth of the calm mom lives on. Perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect composure, no matter how many fires she puts out, or ignores with pharmaceutical grace. You close the pantry, face the family, and step back into your role. The world keeps spinning, the children keep screaming, the phone keeps ringing. But with mother's little helper in your system, you've learned to move through it all in slow motion, untouched by the panic that used to rise in your chest. The world expects you to be calm, and thanks to a small pill and the miracles of modern science, you are, or at least, you look the part. Night falls, the house finally settles, and your mind won't shut up. Fortunately, sleep comes in a tablet now, preferably blue, sometimes white, occasionally washed down with a little leftover sherry. Sweet dreams, courtesy of 1950s pharmacology. The kitchen lights are off. The kids have finally stopped waging guerrilla warfare in the hallway, and the TV glows softly in the living room, hosting yet another episode where no one ever looks tired. But in your house, the day's endless parade of chores, squabbles, and unsolicited phone calls lingers like static. Your feet ache, your back aches, and your brain feels like a load of laundry that never quite finishes spinning. You tuck in the last child, collect one final sock from behind the couch, and face the hardest part of the day, convincing your mind to shut up so your body can sleep. You slip into the bathroom, careful not to wake your spouse, who is already snoring, blissfully unaware that sleep is a luxury for women who didn't spend the day making peace treaties over snack time. You open the medicine cabinet, and there they are. The real heroes of the evening routine, the sedatives, all lined up in their pastel bottles like an army of tiny, chemically benevolent soldiers. There's one for falling asleep, one for staying asleep, and one for just in case the first two don't do the job. Your doctor assures you it's perfectly safe. After all, lots of housewives need a little help unwinding at the end of the day. You pour yourself a glass of water, hesitate, and swap it for the last splash of sherry hiding in the cupboard. The pill goes down easy, leaving only the faintest chalky aftertaste. Within 20 minutes, the anxiety that clings to your ribs like static begins to fade. Your thoughts slow from a chaotic traffic jam to a manageable trickle of cars. You don't exactly feel tired yet, but you're no longer staring at the ceiling and composing angry letters to the editor in your head. The sedative doesn't just promise sleep, it delivers something even more precious: the illusion of control. You can't fix everything that happened today, but you can at least shut off your brain for 7 blissful hours. You settle into bed, pull the covers up, and listen as the world grows fuzzier. The shadows on the ceiling become friendly, the ticking clock less accusatory. Your muscles release tensions you didn't even know you were holding. Sometimes, there's a strange moment between wakefulness and sleep, where the day's troubles try to sneak back in. The burned casserole, the PTA obligations, the sticky fingerprint on the wall that you definitely scrubbed twice. But the pill is working now, and those worries melt away, sliding out of reach like a dream you'll forget by morning. Maybe you'll wake up refreshed. Maybe you'll wake up groggy, reaching for coffee before your slippers. But right now, you drift. For once, your mind is quiet. You're not the only one on the block relying on a little pharmaceutical lullaby. The next morning, your neighbor will mention she's finally sleeping through the night, and you'll both exchange knowing smiles. No one asks for details. In this era, sleep is a competitive sport, and everyone's doping. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you just tried reading a book instead. But the idea of lying awake, alone with your thoughts, is far more terrifying than anything in the medicine cabinet. The sedatives don't erase your problems, but they dim the lights long enough for you to rest. You roll over, sigh, and drift off, grateful for modern medicine and the gentle promise that tomorrow you'll have the energy to do it all again. Sleep tight. Your dress size matters more than your blood pressure, so doctors help with a solution that comes with a rapid heartbeat and a side of the jitters. Diet pills, because nothing says healthy like skipping lunch and vibrating through dinner. Let's step onto the pastel bathroom scale. It's 1956, and there's no body positivity movement, just relentless encouragement to watch your figure, courtesy of every magazine on the coffee table. In a world where a woman's worth is measured in inches, not IQ points, the only thing heavier than the societal pressure is the combination of amphetamines your doctor just prescribed for sluggish metabolism. After all, why trust nature when chemistry can deliver results twice as fast and 3 times as jittery? You stand in front of the mirror, stomach sucked in, eyeing the waistline of your favorite dress. It fit last Easter, so what's changed? The answer, of course, is everything. Your body, your metabolism, and the entire American standard of ideal woman have all conspired against you. You sigh, open the medicine cabinet, and reach for the little green tablet your doctor promised would melt those extra pounds away. He mentioned possible side effects, but you stopped listening somewhere between suppresses appetite and instant results. Breakfast? That's for quitters. The pills take away hunger before you've even poured your orange juice. Suddenly, you're too energized to sit down, let alone eat. Your hands shake as you pack the kids' lunches, and you catch yourself alphabetizing the canned goods again. Your mind zips from one unfinished task to another. You wonder, is this what thin feels like? Or did you accidentally take the wrong pill and develop temporary superpowers? There's a new pep in your step, and everyone notices. The other mothers at the market compliment your figure, but their eyes linger on your hands, which haven't stopped fidgeting since 9 a.m. You brush off their concern, just trying to keep up with the kids, as you power walk the frozen food aisle like it's a competitive sport. At Bridge Club, you bounce your leg under the table. Unable to focus on the game or the pastries, you now have the willpower to refuse. Your heart races. Your mouth is dry. You're down 3 pounds this week, but you've also rewritten the entire grocery list, cleaned out the fridge, and reorganized the linen closet twice. The diet pills have turned hunger into a distant memory and sleep into a negotiable concept. Who needs dinner when you can survive on willpower, celery, and the energy of 1,000 caffeinated squirrels? You feel accomplished, almost heroic. Never mind the fact that you can now hear the electricity humming in the walls. Of course, there are downsides. The scale becomes a daily opponent, its verdict determining your mood for the rest of the day. You become well acquainted with headaches, the kind that pulse behind your eyes every time someone mentions pie. You drift through the afternoon in a haze of productivity and mild paranoia. Are the neighbors judging you, or is that just the amphetamines talking? The kids ask why you don't eat with them anymore. You tell them you're just not hungry, while your mind sprints laps around the kitchen. The magazines say, "Thin is in," and for a moment, you almost believe it. But as you lie awake at midnight, tracing the constellations of cracks in the ceiling, you start to wonder what it's all for. You're lighter, sure, but are you happier? Or just faster, jitterier, and one skipped meal away from unraveling? But tomorrow, the scale will be waiting, and so will the little green tablet, promising that this time, thinness will finally feel like enough. Think the kids are safe? Think again. Hyperactive son? Here's a little Ritalin. Moody daughter? Have some hormone pills. In 1950s America, everyone's in on the experiment. Family dinners just got a lot quieter. Step into the family kitchen, circa 1956. You're assembling a meal from the three basic food groups: canned, frozen, and instant. The table is set with formica shine, and the casserole bubbles contentedly, if only the children could. The oldest is stomping around with the energy of a Labrador on espresso. The youngest sulks, arms crossed, face set in a scowl only matched by magazine ads for preteen nerves. You look to your husband for help, but he's lost in the sports section, blissfully unaware that your nerves are shot and the kitchen is one bad report card away from civil war. Luckily, the doctor is always just a call away. Little Johnny's teacher says he can't sit still. He just needs something to help him focus, says the doctor, jotting a prescription with a smile. The solution: Ritalin, the original concentration in a capsule. By next week, your energetic offspring is staring blankly at his math book, tranquil as a goldfish. It's not that he suddenly loves long division. He just can't find the will to care. Your daughter, meanwhile, bursts into tears because her favorite dress is in the wash and nobody understands her. The school nurse, who doubles as a part-time armchair psychologist, recommends a little something for the moods. Enter hormone pills, carefully packaged in a box decorated with daisies and optimism. She swallows them with a grimace and returns to her comic books, a little less stormy, a little less herself. There's a peculiar sense of progress in the air. Science, after all, can fix anything. A mantra you repeat as you count out everyone's doses for the day. You line up the bottles on the counter. Mom's tranquilizer, Dad's antacid, Johnny's focus pill, Susie's hormone tablet. Even the dog gets a chewable vitamin just in case he's feeling left out. The family medicine cabinet has officially outgrown the bathroom. Soon you'll need a spice rack just to keep track. Dinner conversation changes too. Gone are the noisy squabbles, replaced by a polite, chemically induced silence. The kids quietly push peas around their plates, and for the first time all week, no one upends their milk. You should feel triumphant, but the calm is uncanny, like a radio tuned to static. Wasn't there a time when everyone just yelled about dessert and called it a night? Of course. The neighborhood is quick to catch on. At the next school event, the other mothers trade prescription tips like cookie recipes. Oh, we tried the pink ones, but the blue ones really keep Billy from climbing the furniture. You smile and nod, grateful you're not the only parent outsourcing discipline to modern medicine. If the Joneses are doing it, it must be fine, right? But sometimes, late at night, you worry. You sneak into the kids' rooms and watch them sleep. So still, so quiet. Are they happy or just sedated? Are you raising healthy children or simply easier ones? The magazines call it peace of mind. You call it a trade-off. In 1950s America, the nuclear family runs on more than just hope and hamburger helper. It's fueled by a cocktail of convenience, optimism, and a dash of denial. The family that meds together might not argue, but they're all riding the same strange wave of scientific progress. Welcome to the new American dream. Calm, compliant, and chemically assisted. Not all pills are created equal. That new pink one? It's supposed to keep you calm. Instead, it might keep you horizontal, possibly for longer than you'd like. Welcome to the funhouse mirror of side effects. It's Thursday afternoon, and your nerves are singing louder than the vacuum cleaner's death rattle. You reach for the bottle with the cheerful pink label your doctor promised would take the edge off. The ad said it was gentle as a mother's hug. The pharmacist offered a cautious warning. Don't drive, operate heavy machinery, or sign anything important for at least 6 hours. But the magazine at the beauty salon showed a smiling woman on a picnic blanket, serenely ignoring her children. So you decide to give it a whirl. Within 20 minutes, the edges do indeed come off, along with the middle and most of your motor skills. The house drifts into a soft blur. The kids' squabbling fades to a pleasant background hum like a distant radio. You glide through the living room, feeling detached from your hands, your feet, your entire existence. The dog looks at you, confused, as you attempt to fold laundry while lying on the carpet. Suddenly, the fun in Funhouse is debatable. It's not the calm you expected. It's more like hitting the pause button on reality. Your mind drifts into a haze. You attempt to organize the spice rack and forget what spices are. You stare at the telephone, knowing you should call someone about dinner plans, but can't remember who or why or what dinner is. The living room clock lurches forward, and you realize you've been sitting cross-legged on the couch, blinking at a sock for 45 minutes. The kids notice something is off. "Mom?" they ask. "Why are you talking so slow?" You reply, or at least try to, but the words come out like molasses in January. Your eldest volunteers to help with dinner, which, under other circumstances, would be an act of heroism. But tonight just means an extra bowl of cereal gets spilled. Even the dog gives up and falls asleep on your feet. Meanwhile, the side effects are mounting. Your mouth is dry, your head floats several inches above your shoulders, and your motivation is somewhere in the backyard. You try to recall the warnings on the label, may cause dizziness, drowsiness, or sudden horizontalness, but the only thing you can focus on is the color pink. Why pink? Why not soothing blue or calming green? Did the pharmaceutical company decide calm should look like bubblegum? Is this how Barbie feels after a long week? You make your way to the kitchen, aiming for a glass of water and winding up with a cold potato. You wonder if you should call your doctor. But the effort required to dial the phone and form a coherent sentence feels insurmountable. You settle for writing a note to yourself. No pink pills before 5 p.m. The handwriting is barely legible, but it's the thought that counts. By evening, the haze finally starts to lift. You find yourself hungry, tired, and slightly embarrassed by the half-folded laundry mountain and the cereal glued to the countertop. You tell yourself you'll be more careful next time. Maybe stick to the blue pills, or the white ones, or just take a nap instead. But you know how it goes. The quest for calm in 1950s suburbia is a game of pharmaceutical roulette, and everyone spins the wheel sooner or later. The lesson? Not all tranquility is created equal. Sometimes, the only thing the pink pill calms is your schedule by knocking you right out of it. It's not enough to have the shiniest toaster. Now you need the most colorful prescriptions. Housewife status isn't measured in handbags, it's measured in milligrams. Let's be honest. Suburbia runs on envy and competitive cheerfulness. You're not just living in your house, you're starring in a decades-long episode of Who Did It Better? The lawns are mowed in identical stripes, the cars washed every Saturday, and the window boxes bloom on a rotating calendar that makes the Chelsea Flower Show look lazy. In this world, there's always a new trend to chase, and in 1950s America, that trend is pharmaceuticals. It starts innocently. Your neighbor Janet mentions her doctor prescribed her something for the afternoons. Her pie crusts have never been flakier, her hair is glossier, her smile could be bottled and sold as a mood enhancer. At first, you chalk it up to her new perm, but then you hear she's sleeping through the night and managing 3 kids and a puppy without losing her composure. She's not just surviving, she's thriving, and she owes it all to her little yellow pills. Soon you're comparing not just recipes but prescriptions. The pharmacy counter becomes the new salon, with housewives chatting in code about the blue ones for nerves and the green ones for pep. There's a secret hierarchy at play. The more bottles in your cabinet, the higher your rank. The real social currency isn't how many volunteer hours you log, or whether your curtains match your sofa. It's who has the latest, most exclusive prescription. If you're really lucky, your doctor will let you try something not on the market yet, the pharmaceutical equivalent of a designer handbag. You start to notice subtle cues. The neighbor's mailbox, always overflowing with glossy medical pamphlets. The way someone casually flashes her pill bottle at bridge club, as if it's a platinum credit card. The whispered advice at PTA meetings. Oh, you have trouble sleeping? Ask for the pink ones, but not the ones from Dr. Simmons. His are too strong. Go to Dr. Lee. She gets the good samples. You wonder if, beneath every polite smile, there's an unspoken question. Are you medicated enough to keep up? The pressure is real. The right prescription promises an edge, a little more energy, a little less anxiety, a fewer hours spent crying in the laundry room. You feel it in your bones, especially when Janet throws a dinner party where everyone is perfectly coiffed, perfectly relaxed, and perfectly uninterested in dessert. Are they not eating because they're watching their waistlines, or because they took their appetite suppressants an hour ago? You nibble at a celery stick and hope your own cocktail of tranquilizers and vitamin C can get you through the evening without falling behind. The doctors, for their part, are happy to oblige. They know the game. You ask for something to help you keep up, and they hand you a sample box with a knowing wink. No lecture, no questions, just the quiet understanding that suburbia is a marathon, and the real winners are the ones who can sprint all day and still smile at the finish line. Of course, no one ever talks about the side effects, or the moments alone when you wonder if anyone actually feels good, or if everyone is just playing along for the sake of appearances. The pharmacy wars rage on, as relentless as the Joneses' front yard azaleas. You keep your bottles lined up, your prescriptions current, and your smile unwavering, just in case anyone is watching. Because in the end, it's not about the toast or the curtains. It's about the secret arms race, humming beneath the surface of suburbia. The race to feel good, or at least to look like you do. And nobody wants to be left behind. Feeling down? That's not allowed. The only emotion on the menu is contentment, and if you can't summon it, there's a tablet that will do it for you. Warning: may cause suppressed rage and unexpected cake baking. Let's zoom in on your living room. A pastel fortress of calm. The furniture is arranged just so, the curtains starched into submission, and the air is heavy with the scent of lemon polish and just a hint of existential dread. You woke up with a pit in your stomach, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, being a 1950s housewife isn't as glamorous as the magazines promised. You look in the mirror, try to smile, and notice that your lips are trembling. The radio cheerfully insists, "Grey skies are gonna clear up." You'd believe it if you weren't already staring down a whole week of the emotional equivalent of drizzle. But here, in the age of good vibes only, a bad mood is as welcome as last week's fish casserole. There's no time for sadness. You have chores to do, children to feed, and a husband who thinks emotional labor is just what happens when you forget to tip the milkman. The rules are clear. If you're not smiling, you'd better find a way to start, and fast. Luckily, modern medicine is here to help. The same doctor who prescribed pep pills for Mondays and sedatives for Fridays has a new option for your melancholy spells. He writes mild tranquilizer on a prescription pad and tells you to take as needed. You fill the bottle at the pharmacy, where the clerk gives you a look that says, "We're all in this together." The label might as well read, "For emotional emergencies," when you're expected to be okay, but really aren't. One tablet later, the clouds don't exactly part, but they do recede a little. The sad songs on the radio sound distant. You can still feel the ache, but it's like someone threw a thick blanket over it. Soft, muffling, but definitely still there. Your motivation returns in strange ways. You bake a cake, then another, then a whole tray of brownies for the church social you've been dreading. You clean the grout with a toothbrush, just for something to do. The energy isn't happy, exactly. It's more like restless contentment, minus the joy. Family life carries on, oblivious to the storm beneath your tidy hairdo. Your husband comes home, tosses his hat on the side table, and asks if there's pie for dessert. The kids chatter about school, fighting over who gets the last scoop of mashed potatoes. You laugh at the right moments, pour more gravy, and keep the tears pressed down under layers of, "I'm fine, really." If you feel the urge to scream into a pillow, you just turn up the radio and start kneading dough with a vengeance. At Bridge Club, the other women share tips on stain removal, child discipline, and the best mood boosters their doctors have tried. "You know, I just don't have time to be sad," Marge says, dabbing her eyes a little too often. You all nod, a silent pact that says, "Don't ask, don't tell." The group's collective cheerfulness is brittle, but nobody lets it crack. The only thing more tightly controlled than your emotions is your gelatin salad recipe. By evening, you've survived another day of contentment. You watch TV with the family, laugh at the sitcoms, and wish you could bottle the effortless happiness on the screen. You climb into bed, swallow another tablet just in case, and hope tomorrow's menu has more than one emotion on offer. In the 1950s, sadness wasn't cured. It was covered up, baked over, and sometimes washed down with a glass of sherry. And if you ever dared to feel more than content, you'd better have a pill, and maybe a bundt cake, ready for backup. The ads say you'll be happier, skinnier, prettier. They forget to mention the shakes, insomnia, and occasional existential crisis. But the smiling lady on the page looks so convincing, you wonder if she's on something stronger than you. Every magazine you open is a kaleidoscope of promises. Between the recipes for pineapple upside-down cake and the advice columns about keeping your man happy, you find full-page ads splashed with pastel colors. A mother beams as she carries a tray of sandwiches, children and husband all gathered around. Not a hair out of place, not a worry in sight. She takes time for herself. With new, improved Tranquilite, reads the headline. Apparently, all it takes for a harmonious home is the right prescription and a well-placed can of hairspray. The miracle solutions never stop. Lose 5 pounds in a week with Slim Away tablets. Get your nervous stomach under control with Dr. Gladwell's Gentle Tonic. Sleep soundly with Dream Tabs. Every ailment has a cure, and every cure comes in a box more stylish than the shoes you can't afford. If you're not radiant, slim, and completely unflappable, you just haven't found the right combination yet. What they don't show: the blurry mornings, the headache that sits behind your eyes, or the trembling hands you hide while slicing ham for sandwiches. The fine print on the bottom of the ad mentions possible minor side effects, like insomnia, dry mouth, or rare episodes of mild confusion. You learn to read around the promises, but the images stay with you. Perfect wives, perfect mothers, all apparently powered by a cocktail of pills. It's hard not to compare your own reflection, dark circles and all, to the flawless model with her third naturally refreshing glass of tonics. The neighborhood falls in line. At the next Tupperware party, the conversation isn't just about plastic burping lids. It's whispered advice about which doctor gives out the best samples and which pep pill works for early mornings. Everyone acts like the ads are a joke, but you can't help noticing the matching bottles peeking from handbags and the newfound glow on faces that were a lot more frazzled last week. Your husband isn't immune to the campaign either. He sees the happy family on the TV screen, mum and kids all smiling wide, and wonders why your meatloaf can't come with that level of cheer. Maybe you should try one of those new vitamin tonics, he suggests, pouring himself another drink. You smile politely, knowing that he has his own help in the liquor cabinet. Just a different ad campaign. Pharmaceutical companies know what they're doing. Their advertising is a masterclass in guilt and hope, offering a cure for every imagined deficiency. Not thin enough? Try Slim Away. Not energetic enough? Here's Dexedrine. Not calm enough for your chaotic home life? There's a rainbow of tranquilizers waiting for you at the pharmacy. It's not just about health. It's about fitting in, keeping up, and never letting the smile drop, no matter how much you want to crawl back into bed. You cut out the coupons, dog-ear the pages, and wonder, if you buy enough of these pills, will you wake up in an ad? The lady on the page is so convincing, her eyes glassy, her family frozen in perfect joy. Maybe she's reached a state of bliss, or maybe, like you, she's learned to suppress the side effects until after the cameras are gone. At the end of the day, you close the magazine, take your nightly pill, and tuck yourself in. The ads have promised happiness, but your liver is sending up a quiet protest, and your dreams are still a little jittery. You promise yourself you'll try to be happier tomorrow, maybe with the new product on page 37. Or maybe, just maybe, you'll settle for being real. Side effects and all. One day you're scrubbing the floor. The next, you're reading about tragic accidents in the local paper. The rainbow pills promise to fix everything, except maybe the part where you stop breathing. Let's set the scene. It's an ordinary morning in suburbia. You're on your hands and knees, attacking a suspicious stain in the entryway carpet. The new improved cleaner isn't helping, and neither is the faint buzzing in your head, the kind that started when you switched from the blue pills to the green ones. The label said relief of nervous tension, but left out the part about racing heartbeat, cold sweats, and a vague feeling that your heart might leap out of your chest and take the Hoover with it. You pause, swallow, and remind yourself that everything is fine. The kitchen is spotless, the kids are at school, and the world expects you to be perfectly calm, perfectly cheerful, and, preferably, perfectly silent. Except there's that fluttering in your stomach again, nerves, nausea, or just a polite warning from your internal organs that the third pill this week might have been a bridge too far. You sit down, pour yourself some water, and pick up the local newspaper, only to be greeted by a headline on page 3. Tragedy strikes. Suburban home. Authorities investigate possible overdose. You read on, heart thumping. The story is familiar, too familiar. Someone's neighbor, always described as the picture of health, found unresponsive. No one saw it coming. The coroner, in polite language, hints at complications from a combination of medications. Suddenly, you can't help but count the bottles in your own cabinet. Pink, blue, yellow, and white. enough to stock a small apothecary or, depending on your mood, host a pharmaceutical rainbow parade. You remember the doctor's instructions: don't mix these. But the instructions got mixed up with the coupons. And now you're not sure if you took the nerve pill for lunch or the sleeping pill for breakfast. Either way, you feel more anxious than relaxed, and there's a new ache in your side that might just be existential dread. The side effects aren't just physical. You find yourself forgetting things. Appointments, recipes, why you walked into the pantry in the first place. You blame it on mum brain or too much on your plate. But a quiet voice in your head suggests that maybe, just maybe, it's the pills. You call your neighbor Marge for advice. She listens sympathetically and confides, "I started seeing double last week, but at least I made it to Bridge Club. The community is full of stories. There's the woman who fell asleep at the wheel on her way to the market. The husband who mixed up his antacids and his wife's tranquilizers and spent 3 hours convinced he was the mayor. The child who ate a stray pill off the bathroom floor and had to be rushed to the hospital, the family exchanging frantic glances at the ER while whispering, 'We were just trying to keep up.' Even the family doctor, once so cheerful and reassuring, is starting to look nervous himself. Prescriptions are written in smaller doses, warnings delivered with a little more gravity. The ads on TV have started including tiny, speedy voices at the end, rattling off a list of side effects longer than the plot of War and Peace. By dinner, the buzzing has faded, replaced by a low hum of caution. You measure your pills carefully, make a mental note to ask about alternatives at your next appointment, and tell yourself it's all under control. But the next time you see a headline about a tragic accident, you pause just a moment longer, quietly grateful to have made it through another day in the land of colorful cures. Because in 1950s suburbia, every cure came with a catch. And sometimes, the side effects made more news than the pills themselves. Your husband doesn't notice the pills, he just appreciates that you're less likely to throw the roast at him. But behind every calm wife is a woman quietly losing her grip on reality, one prescription at a time. Let's peek into the living room as the sun dips low and the familiar sounds of suburban tranquility fill the house. The gentle hum of the television, the rustle of a newspaper, and your husband's contented sigh as he stretches out in his favorite chair. He doesn't ask why you no longer raise your voice about unmowed lawns or burnt toast. He just notices that home is, well, quieter now. Dinner appears with less drama. The children's squabbles somehow don't escalate to World War III. The dog, perhaps sensing a change in the atmospheric pressure, barks a little less. He chalks it up to your natural maternal patience, or maybe the benefits of that new women's magazine you've been reading. He's heard a rumor at the office about housewives' nerves and the wonders of modern medicine. But he hasn't asked. Why should he? If you're happy, he's happy. And if you're calm, then surely everything is just as it should be. He has no idea that your calm comes carefully measured, poured out of a bottle by the teaspoon, or hidden inside a small pastel tablet. Your calm is chemical, a delicate balancing act between being too anxious to function and too sedated to care if the jello mold has collapsed. Sometimes, you feel like a supporting actress in your own home, playing the role of contented spouse number one, with a smile that feels a little too practiced. He boasts to his friends over coffee at work, "My wife is so calm now. Never gets worked up over the small stuff. House looks great. Kids are happy. Dinner's always on time." They nod, a little envious, and wonder if their own wives might benefit from whatever yours is having. A few even drop hints at their next doctor's visit. The male perspective in 1950s America is clear. Tranquility at home is a sign of domestic success, a badge of honor for any husband lucky enough to have a well-adjusted wife. It never occurs to him that your calm might come at a cost. That beneath the surface, there's a quiet struggle as you navigate the shifting sands of mood, memory, and motivation. That the silence he prizes might be the result of a numbness that creeps in around the edges, softening your laughter and dulling your anger alike. He doesn't notice that you've stopped singing along to the radio, or that the cakes you used to bake for fun are now just another task to check off the list. Sometimes he wonders why you seem a little distant, or why your stories trail off before the punchline. But he tells himself it's just the stress of modern life. After all, he has his own remedies: a highball after work, a weekend spent tinkering with the car. Men have their ways, women have theirs, he says, and leaves it at that. He'll never read the warning labels, never stand in line at the pharmacy, never count out the pills one by one in the quiet of the morning. He'll just appreciate the peace, never knowing that the price of his calm home is your shrinking world. And so the 1950s march on. Each calm wife another tick in the ledger of suburban achievement. Each unasked question a silent bargain. Behind every tranquil home is a woman making it all look easy, one prescription at a time. Forget Avon. The real door-to-door stars of the 1950s were pharmaceutical reps. Handsome men with suitcases full of samples, promising relief, energy, and a little something for the nerves. Who knew addiction could be delivered like a pizza? It's a Wednesday morning, and the doorbell rings, right in the middle of your most productive hour, somewhere between sorting socks and considering running away to Reno. You wipe your hands on your apron, practice your best "I'm totally in control" smile, and open the door to find a man who looks like he stepped out of a toothpaste commercial. His suit is pressed, his hair is perfect, and he's balancing a leather case emblazoned with a logo you vaguely recognize from the last issue of Good Housekeeping. "Ma'am, do you have a minute for your health?" he asks, already halfway through your threshold. You nod, more out of habit than enthusiasm, and he launches into a practiced routine. Out come the samples, bottles and boxes in every pastel shade, each promising something you desperately want: energy, calm, sleep, the ability to survive a family road trip without weeping openly at a gas station. He's got a pitch for every problem. Tired? Here's a tablet that will have you vacuuming with the force of 1,000 suns. Feeling frazzled? Try this little blue pill, just one, and you'll glide through your chores like a cloud. Trouble sleeping? There's a solution for that too, and it comes in a bottle shaped like a tiny pillow. He assures you that these products are doctor recommended and used by leading housewives nationwide. You wonder if they have a club or just a shared pharmacy bill. The reps know their audience. They compliment your curtains, your hydrangeas, your ability to keep such a lovely home. They hand out not just samples, but hope. Hope that with the right combination of pills, you'll finally be the woman the magazines keep promising you can be. It's not just sales, it's theater, and you're the star customer in the pharmaceutical parade. Of course, you're not the only stop on his route. You watch him cross the street, case swinging, already greeted at Marge's door by a chorus of poodles and the smell of banana bread. The neighborhood is abuzz. Did you see the new guy from Fayramco? Did he have the orange capsules or the green ones? Did he mention that new calmative that works even faster than the last one? By dinner, you're stocked with more samples than you know what to do with. You add them to the growing collection in the bathroom, tucked between the toothpaste and the anti-aging cream. You feel a small surge of satisfaction. Your medicine cabinet now rivals any you've seen at Bridge Club. You briefly consider hosting a sample swap party, just for the novelty of it. Who needs Tupperware when you can trade tranquilizers? It's only later, as you sit down to write your grocery list, that you realize the pharmaceutical parade has left its mark. The pills are everywhere, by the phone, on the nightstand, in your purse, even tucked into the junk drawer next to the emergency flashlight and half a roll of stamps. The house is quieter, the chores are getting done, and everyone is just a little bit calmer. Maybe too calm. But who are you to argue with progress? By the time the next rep rings the bell, you'll have your list of requests ready. Something for nerves, something for sleep, something for the creeping suspicion that this is all getting a little out of hand. But that's tomorrow's problem. For now, you pop a sample, smile for the salesman, and remind yourself, at least it's not another Avon party. What happens when you stop? Shakes, sweats, and a sudden urge to tell your family exactly how you feel. It's almost enough to make you miss the pills. Almost. Let's paint the scene. It's a new day, and for the first time in years, you decide not to start it with a pastel tablet. The bottle sits on the bathroom shelf, practically humming with temptation, but you leave it untouched. You're determined to see what life is like in full, unfiltered color, even if that color is mostly gray. The magazines call it natural living. Your doctor called it not recommended. But something inside you wants to remember who you are, not just how you've been medicated. The first sign something's different comes with breakfast. Your hands tremble as you spread margarine on toast, and you knock over your orange juice with the kind of flair usually reserved for juggling acts. The jitters arrive, swift and sharp. The floor tilts ever so slightly. You tell yourself it's just nerves, but by mid-morning you're sweating like a nervous contestant on a game show. The world feels louder, brighter, and significantly more annoying. Every spilled bowl of cereal and slammed door sends a jolt straight to your teeth. Your family, blissfully unaware, proceeds with business as usual. Your husband asks if you remembered to starch his shirts. The kids shout about lost lunchboxes and missing shoes. Even the dog seems louder today, barking at every leaf that dares to fall in the yard. Without your chemical filter, the chaos of daily life hits like a brass band in a broom closet. Then comes the mood swing. You move from teary to furious in the time it takes to butter a muffin. For years you've been a model of controlled serenity. But now the feelings you stuffed under layers of pills are staging a noisy coup. You snap at your husband for forgetting to put his coffee cup in the sink. You threaten to throw away every toy left on the floor. The words "I'm fine" have never sounded less convincing. By noon, the cravings set in. Your body remembers the routine, and it's not happy you've changed the script. You eye the medicine cabinet with longing. Just one pill, you tell yourself, and the world will soften at the edges again. You pace the kitchen, chew gum, sip water, and consider moving to a remote cabin, alone, anything to escape the relentless thrum of withdrawal. Meanwhile, the guilt creeps in. Are you being selfish, subjecting your family to your raw, unfiltered emotions? Were the pills really that bad? Or were they just misunderstood? You start romanticizing the quiet numbness, the easy evenings, the absence of racing thoughts. For a brief, dangerous moment, you forget why you ever wanted to quit. But then, something unexpected happens. The fog starts to lift. The headaches fade. Your appetite returns, with a vengeance. Your laughter, hesitant at first, grows louder. You hug your child and actually feel the squeeze, not just the idea of it. Your husband cracks a joke at dinner, and you genuinely laugh for the first time in months. The feelings, good, bad, overwhelming, are yours. The anger, the joy, the fatigue, all part of a real life you thought you'd lost. Withdrawal isn't easy. It's messy and loud and not nearly as graceful as the ads in the magazines. But as the rainbow fades, you begin to see yourself again, flawed, hopeful, and finally alive. Tomorrow, the medicine cabinet will still be there, just in case. But for now, you're okay facing the world as yourself, even if your hands still shake a little. You can't talk about it. You can barely admit it to yourself. But every medicine cabinet on the block tells the same story. Too much, too often, and never quite enough. Let's set the mood. Late evening in suburbia, curtains drawn tight, neighbors' porch lights flickering on, one by one, as if everyone is signaling show's over. You finish the dishes, check that the doors are locked, and linger in the hallway. The house is quiet, but your mind is buzzing with thoughts you'll never voice. There, tucked behind the extra toothpaste and a half-empty bottle of mouthwash, is your growing collection of rainbow pills. You count them by touch, not by sight, just in case someone walks in. After all, you know the rules. What happens in the medicine cabinet stays in the medicine cabinet. It's not just you. Every woman at bridge club, every neighbor at the PTA is carrying some little secret in her purse or bathroom drawer. Everyone talks about the best cake recipes, the right window cleaner, even where to get a good girdle on sale. But no one ever whispers about the real nightly ritual, counting out the doses, hoping tomorrow will be easier or at least blurrier. The silence is suffocating. You want to ask, are you okay? Do you ever take one more than you're supposed to, just to make it through? But you don't. You smile, share casserole tips, and make a mental note of who's looking just a little too rested, whose hands shake just a bit as they pour the coffee. You wonder if Marge next door is taking the blue ones now. Since she started smiling so wide, you can see it from across the hedge. The truth is, you didn't plan on this. It started as an occasional helper, a little something for nerves, a little something for sleep. Then came the hard days, and the bottle was always there, more dependable than a husband or a washing machine. The refills became automatic. The pharmacist stopped asking questions, and still, no one talked about it. Sometimes, late at night, you lie awake, not from insomnia, but from the worry that you'll run out. You wonder if the others feel it too, the low-level panic when the prescription is getting low, the secret calculation of how many days until you can ask for more without raising an eyebrow. You imagine a support group for housewives, but instead of sharing feelings, everyone just passes around a bottle and nods in silent understanding. Even the doctors keep secrets. They lower their voices, scribble on the pad, and tell you it's just a phase. Everyone needs a little help now and then, they say, but you can't help feeling that now and then has quietly become morning and night, and whenever you need to get through dinner without crying into the mashed potatoes. And so, the epidemic grows, one silent, medicated household at a time. The secrets seep into everything. You swap stories about everything, except the one thing that matters. You teach your children to be polite, to say thank you, to keep family business private. You learn to hide the bottles at the back of the drawer when guests come over, and to throw away the empty ones in the neighbor's trash, just in case someone's watching. But deep down, you know you're not alone. The silence isn't just yours. It's the whole block's, the whole country's. Maybe someday someone will talk about it. Maybe someday someone will say, "Me too." Until then, you'll keep your secrets right next to the aspirin, the cough drops, and the hope that tomorrow will be easier. Because in 1950s suburbia, it's not the pills that are dangerous, it's the silence. Sometimes it wasn't just a bad reaction. Sometimes the pretty pills piled up. Neighbors whispered, doctors changed the subject, and another tragic accident was quietly swept under the pink shag carpet. Let's set the scene. The morning is peaceful, with the sound of sprinklers hissing across tidy lawns, and the distant hum of a delivery truck making its rounds. You're stirring sugar into your coffee when the phone rings, not the pleasant chime of a neighbor asking for a recipe, but the tense, clipped tone that means something is wrong. "Did you hear about Mrs. Bailey?" Marge asks, voice lowered as if the receiver might be bugged. You nod, though you haven't heard yet, because you already know the script. Another incident. another casserole in the oven, another set of condolences prepared in the good china. The newspapers never say much, just that it was sudden, a tragic accident or unexpected turn. The real story hovers in the margins, passed in whispers and sidelong glances at Bridge Club. Someone mentions a mix-up with prescriptions, a bad reaction to a new tranquilizer, a sleepless night that turned into something more permanent. Nobody ever calls it what it is. Too many pills, too many problems, not enough honesty. It's a pattern as old as suburbia itself. The bottles line up in the medicine cabinet, their colors promising safety and peace. The instructions blur together after the first refill. Take 1 with food, 2 with water, skip if you're dizzy, double if you can't sleep. The days blur, too, until you're not sure if you took your morning dose or if you just dreamed you did. Maybe the kids distracted you. Maybe the phone rang. Or maybe you just wanted the quiet a little too much. Of course, no one is allowed to talk about it. The doctor mutters something about personal responsibility. The pharmacist asks if you have any questions, then quickly moves on to the next customer. Husbands read the headlines, shake their heads, and declare, "These newfangled drugs are dangerous," before pouring another drink. Housewives comfort each other with cakes and casseroles, but never with the truth. The real cause of death is always the same: silence. The aftermath is a choreography of denial. The funeral is quick, the casseroles delivered on time, and the story fades as soon as the front porch ferns start to wilt. But for the families left behind, the questions never really go away. Was it an accident? Was it a cry for help? Did anyone notice how quiet she'd gotten? How tired her smile had become? The pink shag carpet hides a lot. Crumbs, secrets, the evidence of a life lived under pressure until the seams gave way. Sometimes, the children whisper their own theories, pieced together from fragments overheard in kitchens and hallways. They grow up wary of medicine cabinets, suspicious of pills that promise too much. They remember the day everything changed, the neighbors' voices hushed, the casseroles stacked, the feeling that something was terribly wrong, even if nobody said it out loud. The lesson spreads quietly through the neighborhood. Check your labels, don't mix prescriptions, never take more than the doctor says. But beneath the surface, the real warning goes unspoken. It's not just about the dosage. It's about the crushing expectation to be fine, always fine, even when you're unraveling. It's about a culture that prizes composure above confession, perfection above pain. And so, the pills keep piling up, the whispers never stop, and the shag carpet grows thicker each year. Everyone hopes they won't be next. Everyone pretends it couldn't happen to them. But deep down, every house on the block carries a quiet fear that under the right conditions, the line between fine and finished is thinner and more fragile than anyone wants to admit. Eventually, some women got tired of being tranquilized into oblivion. Suburbia wasn't as quiet as it looked, and beneath the veneer of calm, something rebellious started to simmer. It didn't happen all at once. At first, it was just a flicker, a sideways glance over the coffee cups, a hesitation before swallowing the morning's little helper. Housewives who'd spent years living in a pastel fog started to notice cracks in the wallpaper. The endless cycle of pet pills in the morning and sedatives at night, all in the name of keeping the peace, began to feel less like progress and more like surrender. It started small, a missed dose here, a pill quietly left in the bottom of a teacup there. At Bridge Club, someone confessed, "I just didn't feel like taking it today." Heads turned. There was a moment of silence, heavy and electric. Then a few nods. Tentative, but real. Maybe it wasn't just you. Maybe everyone was tired of smiling through the side effects, tired of pretending that chemical calm was the same as contentment. The rebellion was subtle but relentless. Some women stopped refilling prescriptions altogether, telling the doctor, "I think I'm feeling better." Others got creative, trading stories about herbal teas and meditation, and swapping new coping strategies in coded language. "I find a walk helps my nerves," meaning I'd rather sweat it out than swallow another tranquilizer. The pharmacy started noticing a drop in regular orders, but couldn't quite put a finger on why. In living rooms and kitchens, the conversations grew bolder. Women began to ask questions of their doctors, their friends, and most of all, themselves. Why do I have to be calm all the time? What's so wrong with feeling angry or sad or just plain fed up? Marge, queen of the casserole, shocked the whole neighborhood by telling the PTA she'd rather be tired and cranky than a robot with perfect hair. A ripple ran through the crowd. Robot, indeed. The doctors didn't know what to do. Some insisted that progress meant more pills, not fewer, and offered new combinations with even more syllables. But a growing number of women pushed back. They questioned the logic of a system that required them to medicate away their real lives. The rebellion wasn't always dramatic. No burning bras or marches through Main Street. Just a collective decision to feel everything. Even when it hurt, even when it made dinner a little late or the living room a little louder, slowly, houses grew noisier. Arguments weren't muffled, but aired out. Tears weren't just private anymore, they were part of real life, as were laughter, messes, and honest-to-goodness boredom. The myth of the perfectly tranquil home started to fade, replaced by something more chaotic, but also more alive. Some women found strength in numbers, starting informal support circles, where the only thing on the menu was honesty. They compared stories of withdrawal, swapped books about self-help, and sometimes just sat together in silence, letting themselves feel whatever needed to be felt. The greatest act of rebellion, it turned out, wasn't running away. It was staying put, refusing to be sedated out of their own stories. Of course, the world didn't change overnight. The rainbow pills were still there, tempting in their tidy bottles. But the power had shifted. Suburbia learned that true calm can't be bottled, and that fighting back could be as simple and as radical as choosing to live, awake and unfiltered, in all the beautiful, noisy mess of real life. The revolution was quiet, but it was real. And from that quiet rose a generation of women who decided that being fully alive was better than being perfectly numb. The pills changed, the colors changed, the promises stayed the same. Modern medicine might be safer, but the longing for an easy fix is still hiding in every commercial break. Fast forward to today. The shag carpets are gone, but the commercials still whisper solutions for all your modern woes. Stress, sadness, stubborn belly fat, sleepless nights, social awkwardness, and anything that doesn't feel like happiness. The bottles aren't as pastel, the labels are longer, and there's a government warning stamped on everything. But when you open your medicine cabinet, there's still a lineup of pharmaceutical hope, now with bonus QR codes and 3 pages of side effects. The rainbows had a branding update, but the dream inside is eerily familiar. You sip your coffee and watch TV, where celebrities and animated butterflies urge you to ask your doctor if you qualify for the latest breakthrough. The actors are happier, healthier, their lawns greener, their children quieter, just like the old ads, but now in high definition. They promise the solution is easy, discreet, and, above all, available with a low monthly copay. You realize, with a pang, that the only thing that's really changed is the style of the kitchen. Doctors are more cautious now, handing out prescriptions with more paperwork and less fanfare. But the questions remain. Are you sleeping well? Are you anxious? Are you happy? If you say no, there's always a solution, usually in pill form, but sometimes a patch, a spray, or a gummy that tastes suspiciously like candy. The methods have evolved, but the message hasn't. Normal life is a problem to be fixed, not a state to be lived in. The pharmacy aisles are longer and brighter, but also a little lonelier. There's less chit-chat, fewer bridge clubs, and more late-night scrolling through health forums. The support group is online now, and confessions come with usernames and emojis. The stigma isn't as heavy, but the pressure to be fixed, optimized, and perpetually fine is still alive and well. You catch yourself comparing bottles with friends, not at the PTA but at brunch, or via text. What are you on these days? Does it help you sleep, or just make you crave cookies? Everyone has their own cocktail of coping mechanisms. Yoga, mindfulness apps, supplements that promise clarity, and, if all else fails, the time-honored tradition of eating cereal straight from the box at 2 a.m. Every so often, a new miracle arrives, a non-addictive anxiety med, a pill that claims to erase sadness without a single side effect, a probiotic that promises to make you both cheerful and regular. The rainbow keeps reappearing, now with FDA approval and a warning not to drive or operate heavy machinery. You laugh, remembering the blue and pink bottles your grandmother hid behind the cough syrup, and wonder if she'd recognize the names on your current prescription. The longing for an easy fix is more sophisticated now. The branding is sleeker, the consultations more private, but the hope inside is the same. To silence the parts of ourselves that are inconvenient, unruly, or just too much to bear. The promise is always just one bottle away, a brighter morning, a calmer afternoon, a restful night. The reality, as it always was, is a little more complicated. Still, there's progress too. The conversations are opening up. People talk, even joke, about therapy. The silence of suburbia is breaking. It's safer now to admit that sometimes things aren't perfect. Maybe that's the real legacy. Not the rainbow pills, but the courage to say out loud what was once only whispered behind closed doors. Because the rainbow never really fades. It just changes shape, color, and dosage. And the search for a better life, one pill, one conversation, one day at a time, continues in all its messy, hopeful, wonderfully human ways. It's Tuesday night, and you're surrounded by women who all claim they love making cupcakes. Underneath the polite small talk and pastel sweaters, there's a quiet battle raging. Whose pill will kick in first? Welcome to the PTA, where the real drama happens at the pharmacy, not the bake sale. The meeting is called to order by Mrs. Davenport, who hasn't blinked since she walked in. Her eyes are as wide as the trophy case in the school lobby. You take your seat, careful to balance your coffee, notepad, and the emergency tablet tucked into your purse for when the conversation about school fundraising becomes too existential to bear. The folding chairs squeak as everyone shifts for optimal visibility, not to the blackboard, but to each other. Status is measured in poise, patience, and the discreet rustle of prescription bottles. The agenda is printed in cheerful Comic Sans. But don't be fooled. This is serious business. Should the school switch to non-toxic glitter for craft projects? Will the spring carnival feature real ponies or, heaven forbid, just a clown on stilts? The debate over cookie ingredients becomes heated, and the tension in the room spikes higher than a blood sugar crash at the dessert table. You feel the first tremors of your own helper kicking in, smoothing the edges of your nerves just enough to prevent a public meltdown over frosting preferences. But you're not alone. Across the table, Marge is tapping her pen with the relentless energy of someone whose morning coffee came with a side of dexedrine. Linda, meanwhile, is practically melting into her chair, smiling beatifically at everyone, possibly riding the tail end of a mild tranquilizer. You watch the subtle glances, the knowing nods, the way someone stirs their tea with just a bit too much vigor. This isn't just a PTA meeting, it's a pharmaceutical arms race, and everyone is playing to win. The competition is fierce, but unspoken. Who can stay calm when Mrs. Robinson proposes turning the art room into a quiet zone with strict noise quotas? Who can feign the most enthusiasm for the annual walk-a-thon without accidentally volunteering to chair the committee? You wonder how many of the serene smiles are genuine and how many are the result of modern chemistry. Someone makes a joke about mother's little helper, and the laughter is just a touch too loud, just a beat too late. You find yourself performing too, smiling, nodding, volunteering to bring something healthy to the next event, even though you know it'll be easier to show up with a tray of store-bought cookies and a very creative explanation. You marvel at how everyone manages to look both exhausted and perfectly composed at the same time. Maybe it's the stimulants, maybe it's sheer force of will, maybe it's the knowledge that anyone who cracks will be instantly surrounded by offers of a little something from someone's purse. As the meeting drags on, the air grows thick with both floral perfume and the sense that you're all barely holding it together. Someone passes around sign-up sheets, and for a moment, your mind goes blank. Did you already agree to head the book fair, or was that last year? You scribble your name anyway, comforted by the steady thrum of medicated calm humming beneath your composure. Finally, the gavel drops and the meeting is adjourned. The women gather their things, trade a few recipe cards, and exchange quiet reassurances. You did great tonight. Let me know if you ever need anything or just a pick-me-up. You file out into the night, heart still racing, brain still buzzing, and already planning your next dose for the science fair bake-off. Because in the world of the PTA, success isn't just about who makes the best cupcakes. It's about who has the best prescription and the nerves, real or otherwise, to survive until next Tuesday. Church is meant to be a sanctuary, but half the congregation is riding a chemical wave of serenity, or desperately hoping it'll kick in before the sermon is over. You clutch your hymnal, smile at the neighbors, and wonder if God accepts prayers written in prescription refills. It's Sunday morning, and you're perched on the edge of a hard wooden pew, knees pressed together, hat pinned at a respectful angle. The church smells like lilies, floor wax, and just a hint of menthol from the usher's pocket mints. The organ starts to play, and you flip through your hymnal, pretending to search for the right page, while actually scanning the crowd for signs of pre-sermon jitters. Mrs. Palmer is fanning herself with the bulletin, eyes slightly glazed. Mr. Harding's tie is crooked, and he's gripping the pew as if bracing for turbulence. You took your benzo at breakfast, just in case, for nerves, the doctor called it. Though the nerves seem to multiply whenever you're expected to appear especially well-behaved in public. You feel the soft glow of detachment settling in, gently insulating you from the collective tension of a congregation trying not to cough too loudly or sing too off-key. There's a whispered exchange between pews. Is she okay? Just a little tired this week. You know how it is. You do. The pastor begins his sermon, voice booming through the stained glass calm, and you try to focus on his words about peace, patience, and loving thy neighbor. Your mind, however, drifts, first to the to-do list waiting at home, then to the contents of your purse, where another emergency pill sits between a roll of lifesavers and 3 unsharpened pencils. You silently bargain, if I make it through the whole service without zoning out, maybe I can skip the next one, or at least switch to decaf. The children fidget in the back rows, mothers sending warning glances so sharp they could etch scripture onto the pews. Little Bobby is chewing on the corner of a hymnal, while Susie methodically undoes every button on her cardigan. Somewhere, a baby wails, a sound that once would have set your nerves on edge, but now just blends into the liturgical wallpaper. You envy the choir their ability to belt out hymns at full volume, unburdened by the need for pharmaceutical fortitude. The offertory arrives, and as the collection plate is passed down the row, you catch snippets of whispered conversation. I hear her doctor switched her to something new. She's been so calm lately. It's the blue ones, Or maybe the yellow. I can never keep track. The older ladies trade prescription tips as readily as they do soup recipes, their voices lowered to a reverent hush. As the final hymn swells, you find yourself both grateful and mildly alarmed at the state of collective calm. Are you all really this serene, or just this sedated? The benzos have done their work, smoothing the edges of anxiety and replacing genuine connection with a kind of floaty solidarity. The service ends, and everyone files out, shaking hands, exchanging practice smiles, and offering assurances that this week will be better, surely. Outside, you linger on the church steps, basking in the late morning sun and the slow return of sensation. The world feels softer, but also slightly unreal, like you're all extras in a film about people pretending not to worry. You trade a recipe for lemon bars with Mrs. Palmer, accept an invitation to next week's bake sale, and marvel at the seamless blend of faith, friendship, and pharmaceuticals. You head home, hymnal in hand, wondering if the peace you just prayed for is waiting for you in the medicine cabinet, or if, just maybe, it might someday come on its own. Until then, you'll keep singing, keep smiling, and keep your refills up to date, just in case. There's a knock at the door, and it's not the milkman, it's your doctor, black bag in hand, and ready to solve every problem with a new color-coded tablet. He's equal parts healer, therapist, and 1950s drug dealer, and you're not sure whether to thank him or hide the empty bottles. It's a Thursday afternoon, and you're halfway through rearranging the linen closet for the third time this week when you hear the doorbell. The dog starts barking as if announcing royalty. You smooth your hair, hide the laundry basket, and open the door to find Dr. Phillips smiling warmly. Ty just a little too cheerful for someone who spends his days discussing digestive complaints and nerves. He tips his hat, steps inside, and deposits his weathered black bag on the coffee table as if he's moving in. House calls are supposed to be reassuring, a personal touch in an age before voicemails and telehealth. But as you offer him a seat and a cup of coffee, you realize there's a ritual at play. He asks how you're feeling, really feeling, eyes darting discreetly toward the telltale line of pill bottles peeking from the kitchen counter. You want to be honest. Should you admit you haven't slept through the night since the Eisenhower inauguration? That your nerves are frayed and your patience is as thin as your best tea towels? Or do you just smile and say, "Oh, I'm fine, just a little tired"? Dr. Phillips listens with the patience of a man who has heard every complaint, from varicose veins to existential malaise. He nods sympathetically as you describe your low energy, your sleepless nights, your sudden urge to alphabetize everything in sight. He jots a note, pulls out a sample bottle, blue, pink, yellow, take your pick, and explains that modern science is working wonders for women like you. For every problem, there's a pill. For every symptom, a solution. You wonder if he's keeping score. How many housewives on the block are trying the blue ones? Is Mrs. Carson across the street still on the yellow? Has he run out of pinks this week, or is there a new color on offer? Prescription roulette is a neighborhood pastime, and everyone is in on the game. You nod politely, accept the new tablets, and try not to let your gratitude sound desperate. He asks after your husband and the children, reminding you that a calm mother is a happy home. You imagine the doctor making similar pronouncements in a dozen houses a day, each time leaving behind a trail of pastel capsules and slightly more compliant households. He scribbles your refill on a pad with a flourish, tears it off, and slides it across the table with the gravity of someone handing over state secrets. When Dr. Phillips leaves, you stand in the doorway and watch him head off to his next stop. You're left with a prescription slip, a vague sense of reassurance, and the quiet realization that your well-being now depends on a color-coded calendar and the whims of pharmaceutical salesmen. You tuck the new bottle in the cabinet, lined up beside its siblings, and make a mental note to never, ever confuse the sedatives with the appetite suppressants. The rest of the afternoon drifts by in a haze of minor side effects and cautious optimism. Dinner gets made, the kids squabble, the dog knocks over a potted plant, and you make it through another day. You glance at the empty bottles accumulating under the sink and wonder how many more house calls it will take before you can face a day without reaching for help in tablet form. In 1950s suburbia, every knock at the door brings a new solution and a new spin of the prescription roulette wheel. The real gamble isn't which pill to take, but how long you can keep playing before you finally ask, is this really what better feels like? Out in the backyard, you kneel beside the roses, gossiping about neighbors and deadheading hydrangeas. Beneath the gentle tinkling of iced tea glasses, the real gardening secret is a shared stash of pep pills, turning every weed-pulling session into a high-energy therapy group. Let's paint the scene. It's a sunny afternoon, and the air is thick with the sweet scent of honeysuckle and just a hint of competitive spirit. The garden club meets every Thursday, rain or shine, beneath the awning of Mrs. Robinson's prized patio. You arrive armed with gardening gloves, a spray bottle labeled Miracle Mixture, and a little pill discreetly tucked in the zippered pouch of your apron. Dexedrine, the unofficial sponsor of Suburban Stamina. The club is a study in pastel coordination. Sun hats tilted at jaunty angles, matching floral gloves, and not a grass stain out of place. The conversation bounces from mulch brands to missus, greens suspiciously out of season peonies. She must have a secret, someone whispers. But everyone knows. The only real secret is pharmacological. After all, nobody prunes 12 rose bushes and still has the energy to bake a bundt cake without a little help from modern science. You settle into the rhythm of the afternoon, snipping and gossiping with a vigor that defies both the heat and your natural circadian rhythms. I just don't know how you do it, Marge says, eyes glinting behind her sunglasses as she hands you another glass of iced tea. You smile, fingers moving so fast you accidentally decapitate a perfectly innocent daisy. Oh, it's just good planning. And maybe a little dexedrine. You both laugh, a touch too loudly, as if the roses are in on the joke. Conversations turn confessional as the caffeine and stimulants do their work. Grievances about in-laws and husbands are aired between discussions of fertilizer ratios and aphid infestations. Honestly, I'd be lost without my morning pep, confides Linda as she weeds with surgical precision. I got so much done yesterday. I reorganized the pantry and alphabetized the spice rack again. Heads nod in agreement. Some even take mental notes. There's a certain camaraderie in shared chemical enhancement, an unspoken bond formed over both flower beds and pharmaceuticals. You swap tips, planting, and otherwise. You know, the pink ones are nice for after dinner, but nothing beats dexedrine for the heavy lifting. Someone else mentions their doctor recently switched them to a new formula, and the group leans in, as eager for dosage information as they are for daffodil advice. As the afternoon wears on, the garden looks better than ever, meticulously weeded, perfectly edged, every petunia upright and accounted for. The iced tea pitcher is empty, your hands are buzzing, and you're already plotting which perennial to attack next. The only casualties are a few overly enthusiastic tulip decapitations and one poor earthworm who met its end under the energized trowel of Mrs. Palmer. Eventually, the group collapses into lawn chairs, breathless but triumphant. Sun hats come off, and talk turns philosophical. Do you think we'll ever slow down? Marge wonders. Not as long as the garden keeps growing and the pharmacy keeps delivering. You reply, half joking, half hopeful. The laughter drifts on the breeze, mingling with the scent of lavender and hard-earned satisfaction. As you gather your tools and say your goodbyes, you marvel at the peculiar magic of the garden club, a place where weeds are conquered, secrets are safe, and everyone leaves just a little more energized than when they arrived. Who needs therapy when you have dextrine, a trowel, and a tribe of women who understand that sometimes the real work happens in the dirt, and the rest is just chemistry? The casserole calls for 3 cans of condensed soup and half a bottle of whey. Was that supposed to be paprika or phenobarbital? Mid-century cuisine wasn't the only thing getting dangerously experimental. Sometimes dinner is a little too exciting, and you start to wonder if that jello is really supposed to glow in the dark. It's 5:30 p.m., and you're balancing on the razor's edge between culinary triumph and chemical catastrophe. The kitchen counter is a battlefield. Cream of mushroom soup, canned pineapple rings, maraschino cherries, elbow macaroni, and, somehow, a bottle of sedatives left dangerously close to the spice rack. You squint at the recipe card, which is written in handwriting that's either your own or a long-lost cryptographer's. The instructions are simple. Combine, bake, serve with a smile. Nobody mentioned the side effects. As you stir the mixture, your mind wanders, not just from hunger, but from the steady hum of whatever helper you took this afternoon. You reach for a jar labeled P. Positive, it's paprika. The color is right, the scent well. You can't really smell anything with this lingering sinus congestion and, come to think of it, the mild numbness from this morning's decongestant. You tap a generous spoonful into the bowl before a tiny voice in your head wonders if it's really wise to store pharmaceuticals and parsley together. The answer, as with so many things in the 1950s, is probably not, but nobody told you otherwise. Family life carries on in the background. Your husband calls from the living room, wanting to know when dinner will be ready. The kids are running circles around the kitchen, one holding a box of baking soda, the other clutching a rubber spatula like a sword. You try to focus, but the side effects, dry mouth, racing thoughts, a faint but persistent sense of déjà vu, make it harder than usual to tell if you've just seasoned the casserole or medicated it. You shove the dish into the oven and turn your attention to dessert. Jello, obviously, preferably in a shade not found in nature, studded with fruit and possibly bits of marshmallow. As you mix the powder and water, you notice a faint luminescence. Was that in the recipe? You shrug. It's 1956. Science is everywhere, and surely nothing approved by the FDA would ever glow unless it was supposed to. Dinner time arrives, and you serve your creation with the cheerful confidence of a woman who's decided not to worry about minor details like recommended dosage. Your husband takes a bite, pauses, and asks, "Did you try something different with the sauce?" You smile and nod, hoping the experimental seasoning doesn't result in anything more dramatic than mild confusion. The kids dig in, oblivious, their palates already numbed by a lifetime of gelatinous sides. As the meal progresses, you keep an eye on everyone, just in case. So far, so good. Conversation turns to school, work, and who put the rubber band in the mashed potatoes. You relax, convincing yourself that mid-century living is all about bold new combinations, whether in dinner or in daily medication. When the kids start bouncing in their seats, you chalk it up to the sugar, not the suspiciously peppy aftertaste. After dinner, as you wash up, you make a mental note to reorganize the kitchen cabinets, perhaps with separate shelves for pills and parsley. But you also can't help but marvel at your own adaptability. Sure, sometimes the experiments get away from you, but isn't that the spirit of the age? Casseroles, cocktails, and capsules, just another night in the ongoing adventure that is 1950s home life. Tomorrow, you promise, you'll be more careful. But tonight, as you tuck the kids in and eye the softly glowing jello in the fridge, you have to admit, sometimes disaster makes for the best stories. And so, as the pastel lights of 1950s suburbia flicker out and your kitchen finally falls silent, take a deep breath A real one. Not the kind prescribed by your local doctor. You've survived another day among the rainbow pills, the perky jingles, and the pressures of being the perfect housewife in a world that never let up. Maybe your hair is still in place and your casserole didn't catch fire. Maybe you made it through the PTA meeting without accidentally tranquilizing the dog. In the end, you did what everyone else was doing, trying to hold it together with a smile and a fistful of questionable pharmaceuticals. Let's be honest, those days were rough. Under the glossy veneer of optimism and good housekeeping, there was a real struggle just to make it from sunrise to sunset with sanity intact. The rainbow pills promised peace, but they often delivered confusion, exhaustion, and the kind of existential dread that doesn't pair well with pineapple salad. Yet somehow, those housewives kept going. They endured the daily grind, the weight of impossible expectations, and a medical industry that handed out solutions with one hand and side effects with the other. Their resilience was more than just survival. It was a quiet, stubborn refusal to give in, even when the world seemed determined to tranquilize every last bit of their spirit. So tonight, as you slip beneath your clean sheets, maybe after taking nothing stronger than a cup of herbal tea, spare a grateful thought for those women, for their perseverance, their humor, and their ability to find a moment of laughter, even in the strangest circumstances. Because if history teaches us anything, it's that people are absurdly hopeful and remarkably tough, even when faced with the hazards of barbiturates, burnt toast, and matching kitchen appliances. Rest easy. The rainbow pills are just a memory now, but the lesson remains. Appreciate your comforts, question your quick fixes, and remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply to wake up and do it all again tomorrow. Good night, and may your dreams be colorful in a safe, prescription-free kind of way.